It's been called the mother of all golf tournaments.
Celebrating its 18th year in 2001.
There were 649 golfers participating in the first
The
year.
event will attract 5,000 golfers from all 50 states and over 30 foreign nations.
What better place to host this exciting tournament than Myrtle
Each
Beach?
evening, contestants and their guests gather at the Myrtle Beach Convention Center, better known
This
as
is the place to be this time of year.
You would not believe how much time this man spends in the
We
gym.
have 31 lost clubs turned in during the week. Go ahead, gotta hold that up. 28 of you.
When you get this many golfers together,
The World Am is legitimately the greatest golfing experience that someone who is just the everyday golfer can do.
From my perspective, it gives them a reason to get better at golf.
We spend the most amount of time planning going into stuff was what can we do to make everything feel as smooth as possible from the player's perspective.
The goal has always been get you to play a golf course you've never played, and hopefully you like it and you'll come back. But also, between handicapping and financials, there's a lot of things that people don't necessarily know.
Hold a second, guys. Thank you. This is Steve Mays, the tournament director for the PGA Tour Superstore World Amateur. We're here on Monday, August 21st, getting loaded into the Myrtle Beach Convention Center. So I was interning with Golf Digest and showed up on the week before the tournament started, and the tournament director at the time, Bill Golden, told me, showed up to Myrtle Beach Golf Holiday office, and they said, see that truck over there? We need to load, take everything out of that warehouse and load it in that truck and take it to the convention center. And that's how I kind of got started with it. I remember the first year I was an intern, I got paid in liquor because we had liquor sponsors. So that's how that's how I was paid. Take a bottle of this and take a bottle of that. And I was in college, and that was like gold at that point.
I don't know, what stands out to me was my very first year in 05, just the size of it. My very first job was to manage the shirts in the goodie bag line, which at the time, people actually physically came all at the same time to the convention center, and I opened one box of every size, and I'll never forget Steve Mays, who ran the event before me, came and was like, that's not even close to you being ready. Within 5 minutes, everything was gone, and I was like, oh my God. I think I really got my first go in handicaps when I was evaluating handicaps, and disqualified someone my very first year, and got in a pushing physical confrontation. I was like, oh my God, yeah, people are taking this serious.
Yeah, so I was tournament director from 2012 to 2017. Here I am coming into this thing with first year of the World Am as a tournament director, and I now have a 19th hole to fill out where I just have the main hall. That first year in 2012, it was really just Scott and I handling all the customer service.
I would call it like a paper boy. 2008, I was hired to temp labor to print paper. That's all we did, just run through trees, printing scorecards, and I've been around for, I guess that makes 15 years now. Started full-time in 2012, working full-time at the event.
How it started at the time when I first got hired, I think it was 2013, when they first brought me on more than a tournament organization type thing, which I did that stuff as well. It was more about, hey man, how many expo spots and vendors and people can you get to the event? Can't remember how many we ended up with, probably around 60 vendors or something. So it was a big hit when it was finally established, and that is something to this day that I am the only person that really deals with when it comes to exhibitors at the World Am. I've got people that have exhibited from that first year that come back every single year. Anytime something happens with an exhibitor, it happens once the event has started.
In order to have a good event, you have to be very organized and very detail-oriented. The World Am itself is a giant puzzle. When you think about 3,300 or however many players every year that are going to play 12,000 rounds of golf in a week, the details are very important.
We used to kind of powwow all the time and get together and talk about ideas of, what's a new idea, right? Everybody wants something fresh and something new, and you don't want to be stagnant and stale.
We had to get creative on like even giveaways because we didn't have as much money for like, they used to do we would do these big giveaways on Thursday night. And I mean, when I first started, we're talking motorcycles, cars, people won houses and condominiums. And then I had access to none of that. So we just we just said, hey, we gave away 25 lifetime entries, and now of which people are still using those. The golf courses are getting paid for those. And obviously no one is paying, those winners aren't paying for that, another budget item. I know that's not my problem. I left that behind for somebody else. At the time, it was a really good idea.
For me, there was a woman from Germany who made the putt for $25,000. And as soon as she made it, I've never heard a louder noise in that convention center. I was not even in the building and I heard it. And my mind starts thinking, did I sign that insurance policy? This is the happiest moment for pretty much every participant in the building, and I'm sitting here having a panic attack of figuring out if this is gonna work. And we did, it's good. My CFO might have killed me if that didn't, but we're good. You're gonna have to ask Jeff about the mechanical bull. I don't wanna take credit for that idea.
Just to say something about the mechanical bull, though, I thought it was a great idea.
The mechanical bull was going to be the best thing since sliced bread, just for the record.
I think Scott was on the fence about it, and it might be the only time Scott was right.
No, not going to talk about that one.
It'd be funny to have 60-year-old men riding the bull, and the kids and everybody else. And I maybe saw 3 people on the bull the whole week, and it was pretty disappointing.
I remember the first time when really social media was introduced to the sport, and I remember we had a Twitter campaign, right as probably a couple of years as really Twitter was out there and trying, is anybody going to do this? And a couple people did it. We got like 40 people to participate in what we were trying to do on Twitter, and I think about where we were then and how it's changed now. It's amazing. I think the kind of the fondest memory I have of kind of the technology advances that we had is that we had to, when we started getting handicaps in, we had to manually input all these handicaps into a database. So we got these little yellow cards, and so there were just piles of cards everywhere. You tried to sort them, but then at the end of the day, we had to get those handicap indexes to the person who was managing the scoring. That was based in Utah, Jerry Marks. And we had to do it after the office closed. We had this dial-up service and send it to Utah where he would download all that information, and we'd have to sit there for hours.
And right when I was leaving was kind of when access to more information digitally was coming out. And I sat down with Jeff Monday at the time. I'll never forget, we were in a hotel in Philadelphia at a golf show, and we wrote out on paper, these are kind of some things that we should be doing to make it more of a standardized evaluation process.
The scoring was the biggest difference to me. When I was around in 2010, 2011, the process for once you got scores into the system, you're in an access database, you had about 7 clicks and a whole lot of waiting in order to get a score, just to get the scores. Then people could look at them, and now you're evaluating them. Once 2012 hit, we had our new scoring system in, which came with its own challenges because we hadn't programmed in everything, right? We didn't have rainouts in there. And of course, the first night we get rained out, we had 4 courses rained out the first day. So now our developers are literally sitting in the room programming in how to handle a rainout because you don't have scores for 4 courses. The investment that we've made over the years into that database and into our technologies have really made the event, I think, just a lot more smooth for everybody, and it just adds to the experience.
It's not a typical golf tournament at your home course, like a member guest or whatever. It's just the whole event is a totally different atmosphere.
I think about 3 or 4 years ago, we started doing press conferences at the 19th hole. So kind of similar to, at the PGA Tour level when, hey, I finished a round and they asked the leader to step aside and do a quick little tidbit of their round for the day. And so now every night at the 19th hole, we allow players to get that same experience.
How many players?
43.
And you're tied for 19th?
That's correct.
So we've tried to incorporate new divisions, new ways to get people involved, to get those younger generation in. We added the Just for Fun division, I think, in 2017, where, you could be the worst golfer you've ever seen and nobody cares. Teaming up with women's leadership groups to get more women in. We're adding a gross division for the guys on the other end of the spectrum of, I want to play scratch. This isn't, just a hit and giggle for a 30 handicap. So now I truly believe we have something for everybody, and if you don't want to play, it's just because you don't like golf.
For us, the biggest thing is showcasing our golf course. We want to make sure that we're presenting our golf course like, they were playing in a tour event. That's how we want to showcase our golf course. One, to make sure the event's good, but then also to make sure that they're going to want to come back to our golf courses when they come back to Myrtle Beach.
We really want to make sure that people are getting a good taste for what golf in Myrtle Beach is. That is, for the participant, the thing that they first and foremost come for, and our courses deliver. They treat them well, the service is good, they know they need to show out for these people. It may be the only time that somebody from there has played their course. They've never even heard of your course, but they're going to play it that day.
When the Superstore became the title sponsor, they wanted people to check in at their stores, which I thought was a good idea. So moving to that, I think, was actually, in terms of making the start of your experience better, was good. And that was a big deal technology-wise. All that had to be coded from scratch. We didn't have anything to go off of.
The great thing about the team, the World Am team, is they manage the entire event. And the golf pros kind of hand it, and the golf courses, I say, are just handed kind of the book, and here's what you've got to go out and accomplish. The pride that Bob LeCompte, who was the tournament director at that point when I came on board, to Scott, his team now, and every tournament director and staff throughout those years have always had unbelievable pride in this event to make sure that they could one-up the tournament director behind them, and that's kind of the great thing about it.
Yeah, I think customer service is a big part of what we do. Our team is so personable, and we've gotten to know a lot of people over the years.
If the phone rings, whatever is going on in the office, if somebody calls with the smallest question, everything needs to stop for that person. They need to be treated like a king on the phone. Every call is an opportunity to sell somebody on why our event is the greatest event in the world. It doesn't matter if that conversation takes 20 minutes.
So just listening to their feedback, we try to nip things in the bud before they get to a certain point.
We're going to protect the person who wants to come and play with their handicap in this golf tournament.
We had a guy that we definitely needed to disqualify in 2012.
They won their flight in 2010. They won their flight in 2009. They took a few years off. They came back. But they had a whole new name. They signed up with a different name. Of course, the red flags went off when we were reviewing handicaps. This person got disqualified again. In the midst of the disqualifications at tables, we had a few participants come over and say, "What'd you call that guy?" I was like, that's so-and-so. They're like, "No, that's so-and-so."
His handicap was it was definitely not accurate. So it was funny, I was talking to him. He was so mad at me and just yelling, screaming in my face. He says to me, "I work for XYZ company. It's a large corporation." And he says, "When I get home, I'm emailing everybody in my company and telling them what you've done to me." And I just looked at him, I said, "If you could do that, I would really appreciate it, because every one of those people who's played in a golf tournament before has been frustrated that nobody did this to you, and maybe that will make them want to come." And finally, he was asked politely not to come back, so with any name.
Yeah, so I was definitely there for that. So I can't remember the exact timing when it went out. I mean, I freaked out.
We're all frazzled. It's just chaos.
So the power went out of the convention center. I don't even remember what year it was.
To go completely dark with 5,000 people in a place is probably not good.
But I remember one of our vendors got a bullhorn.
And she walked up right behind Scott, and she either said something into this bullhorn or just hit the little siren button.
And just started shouting at the top of their lungs what was going on.
And he must have jumped 4 feet. And he was, let's just say, pissed is an understatement from that. So in the midst of all of the chaos with the power going out, we had Myra with a bullhorn, which immediately got taken from her hand after that.
Little did I know, out on the floor, I guess they have some emergency lights when it goes out. So there's like some dim lighting, and it's not 4,000 people standing in a completely dark room like I was.
I think it was Thursday night too, when we were just about to announce the awards. There was a hurricane coming in. Fortunately, it came on, 15 minutes later? But nobody cared. That was the best part. Nobody moved. Everybody just kept having fun. It was like nothing was going on, and the party just kept going, which was crazy to think about.
Based on entry fees alone, the event is guaranteed to lose money, or was guaranteed to lose money during my years there, especially since we tried not to raise the entry fees.
We want every dollar that comes in to go back into the customer's experience, which when you don't know how many people are playing or how many shirts to order, you never really know what that bottom line is going to be, but we hope it's zero.
I think the largest misconception that we've ever dealt with is people just thinking that we do this to make money, that we make a ton of money off of it. So, Myrtle Beach Golf Holiday is a 501c6 organization, owned the World Am and operated it since 1984.
We don't do the event to make money. We never do. We do it because we want you to experience the beach at a reasonable price, which is what Myrtle Beach is all about.
The community in the Myrtle Beach area has really stayed focused on, let's make sure this is our event. We created this event. This is the only place that we can have this event. Let's make sure that we do this well.
We are a Myrtle Beach-centric organization. We think this is the best destination to come to for a golf trip, or if you're just here and want to go play golf. So we think that the World Am is the best way to showcase that.
And it comes at a time of year where we're kind of transitioning from summer to fall. It's Labor Day, so schools are starting, so it's not a big travel time. And it's a way for us, we kind of use it as Founder Group as a kickstart to fall.
The goal of the World Am has always been, and hopefully always will be, to introduce people to golf in Myrtle Beach and have them experience it and want to come back. I think for people who have been coming for years, decades, it is a part of their life. For some people, the World Am is a bucket list. They've heard about it, or they just heard about it, and they realize, man, this thing sounds really cool. It doesn't matter what your level of competition is, how good you are at golf. If you're an amateur player, I just think the World Am is something that everybody should experience.
Did you make new friends? Is there somebody you can't wait to see next year? Is there a group of guys that you're going to come down a little bit early and hang out together? There's just so much here that you can't get it all done in one trip. So we hope that if it's your first time, it won't be your last. We hope that you get to experience as many golf courses as possible, because that's what this event is all about. But, in your free time, check out some of the great restaurants, go to the beach, do some shopping.
And for the guys who have been doing it for 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, it's insane for me to think about that level of commitment to something that some people call a golf tournament, but it's really much more than that.